I can elaborate on this if you want, but my basic question to you is, what is duality?
What is duality?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I think we need to start with perception. Perception is the way we have of knowing anything, knowing the world. We perceive sensory data, we perceive our thoughts and feelings, and in that way we make a picture of reality. But that picture evolved not so that we could know reality, but so that we could operate as the animals we are in the physical space that we inhabit, care for our bodies, get the food and water that we need, and all of this. So if I'm hungry and I see an apple on a tree, and I reach out and pick it and bite it, so I perceive the apple on the tree, and then I perceive myself biting it, and I perceive the taste of the apple and all the rest of it. That's a construct. It's based on many assumptions that are built into us, that we evolved to carry those assumptions. We don't really know what an apple is. We don't really know if an apple truly exists, except on the animal level. The cosmologists and physicists are telling us that perhaps even the particles that they used to discuss a few years ago don't really exist, but are only probabilities in a field, whatever that would mean. I could go into what that means because I've read on that subject, but that's not really the point here.
Yeah.
The point is that we are constructing our reality all the time. And this is so ingrained that we don't even notice it. Even if we make an effort to notice it, it's hard to get off that level and to say to myself, I'm looking at a computer screen and art seems to be there, but really it's just dancing pixels. So there's no art in the screen. No, that won't work. I need to now assume that you are there, otherwise we can't really have a conversation. And this is what we do in regards to everything in the physical, emotional, and mental world. We have axioms, we have certain assumptions, and on a certain level they work. They evolve to work. So what we see is a drastically simplified picture, where there is apparent causality. I reach out and pick up my coffee cup, and I say, I picked up the coffee cup. I caused that cup to come into my hand and raise it to my mouth so I can drink. I assume that causality, but that's a simplified picture. The actual causality may lie on a different level entirely, of which I am not aware, and of which I cannot become aware.
Yeah.
Am I making that clear so far?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. Well, that entire picture depends on duality. For example, there is me and the coffee cup. They're not the same. In order to have coffee, I have to perform an action, a dualistic action. I do something with a cup. So I'm here, the cup is over there, and there's an action that connects us. That's duality. So everything that occurs to us on any level whatsoever is dualistic. Obviously, for two people, not one person, is I have an idea in my mind, and when I speak of it, you may understand it to an extent, but not completely, because you have a different mind than I do, with different assumptions, different axioms, and you understand my words not as I intend them, but as they excite certain metaphors in your mind. Well, now we're speaking about linguistics. That's another dualistic understanding. A word can only mean what it means to you. So if I use a word, in our last conversation, I used the word Nazi. I'll use it again. If a descendant of Jews who were murdered in concentration camps hears the word Nazi, that evokes an entire realm of feelings, emotions, historical facts, and all of this. If Marjorie, whatever the fuck her name is, this idiot who's taken over American politics for the ninnies, if she says Nazi, it has none of those reference at all. It's something else entirely. She's comparing the Democratic Party to a bunch of Nazis. It's madness. That's duality. That's duality. Each of us is different. We each have different ideas in our minds. If there were truly non-duality and we humans had access to it, there was truly one consciousness, as people like to say, which is a rather absurd idea. It may be true, but we have no way of knowing it and should not assume that. Certainly should not assume it. So if there's just one consciousness, then why don't you understand everything exactly as I mean it and feel it? Why can't, if there's truly one consciousness, then why are you conscious of certain things and not others, and I'm conscious of different things and not others? If there's truly one consciousness, we all should be conscious of everything all the time. You don't buy that. You don't buy that one, huh?
The last thing you said, well, yeah.
What's the problem? What's the problem with it?
Well, this idea of duality becoming non-duality being observed as duality in traditional Advaita, there's this idea of like the one consciousness, as you're saying it, sort of dividing into three things, you know, and dividing into the observed, the observer, and the observing. And then there is this kind of mystical sounding thing called one consciousness, but but there's no right way of saying that. A lot like, you know, how Lao Tzu said that the Tao that can be put into words is not truly the Tao. You know, I feel like any attempt to describe that is utterly futile, and whether it's ever experienced is totally suspicious, because this is where it enters the realm of paradox, where language can't go, where even experience can't go, and yet the way I feel like our mutual friend Chuck Hillig, he said this really beautiful metaphor that really stuck with me, that where he said religions and philosophies, they're like encampments around the void, and I feel like that's what language becomes when it tries to describe the indescribable. Like one consciousness would be one attempt at that, or consciousness being, yeah, a single thing. But as far as what you just said, that consciousness, if there was a single consciousness, it would know everything, I disagree with that, because it's more in the realm of infinite potential, and there's nothing to say or do from there. You could call it emptiness, you could call it one consciousness, you can call it God. This is my way of looking at that.
Mm-hmm. Well, if something cannot be spoken and it can't be experienced, then what are we talking about? What's the point?
Maybe there is no point.
There are many things about which discussing and talking has a point.
Yes.
Many things.
Yes.
Many. There's an infinitude of things that can be meaningfully discussed. What shall we have for breakfast? That's
right.
Something that can be meaningfully discussed. Or is this a brain tumor? That can be meaningfully discussed.
Right.
Non-duality, from my point of view, cannot be meaningfully discussed any more than Jesus in heaven can be meaningfully discussed. It's exactly the same idea. It's an idealistic picture that's based on God, except now it's called consciousness, but it's the same thing. And it's just like wearing a cross around your neck to say I'm a non-dualist. That's my belief. Yes, I know a lot of people like this. I've had discussions with them. Some have been acrimonious because they don't like my point of view any more than a Christian likes my point of view. It's the same thing from my point of view. From my point of view, non-duality is a religious belief that has no grounding in either experience or language, as you say. And precisely, that's exactly how I see it. The entire world is dualistic, in my experience. All of our words about it are dualistic. And so believing in non-duality is like believing in God. You can't prove that God is there. He may be, or it may be, but we have no way of knowing that. You may feel it. You've been told that since you were growing up. There's a God, there's a God, there's a God. So of course that's deeply ingrained in your awareness. There are many metaphors in your mind for God. But is there a God? Some people are sure of it. They're certain of it. Robert, how could you, when I look at the Grand Canyon, I know that there's a God, but no one but God could have designed such a beautiful landscape. Someone will say that and really mean it. That is just like a non-duality argument. It's the same language, but instead of God, it's non-duality.